a Linux server using the data integration API and how you'd actually get that data and start working with the data with the integration API. Just to have a look and see and go a little bit of a retrospective on the data integration API, it was something that we released back in V10 of backup replication, so not too long ago now. One of these little features which I quite love because it's all about the activation of data. That data otherwise sits there fairly stagnant and really sitting in a backup repository, whether it be a Windows server, a Linux server, somewhere from the cloud, as long as it gets in that repository somewhere, it's sitting there effectively, waiting for that potential restoration occurrence. What we can do with the data integration API is, mount that data live and then do stuff with it. And when I say stuff, I mean things like what you can see on the screen here, some security analysis. You can do some data classification, some business intelligence, apply some AI or machine learning methodologies to that data. Really, really powerful stuff. I mean, what you're doing again is activating that data and making it valuable again for yourself or for customers if you're looking to leverage this as a managed service. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually go into a live screen. So we're going to actually go to my desktop over here and just give me a second. And what we're going to do is look at a couple of these jobs that we've got, and we're going to do a live mount on one of them. And we're going to actually look at this particular machine here. So we've got a Windows, actually I've got a web server here, which is a Linux server. So Windows with the data integration API obviously works natively, because what the data integration API is actually doing is it's mounting a volume to a Windows box via an iSCSI mount. Okay, now that's doing a live mount. That's leveraging some of the technology that we've used, sort of similar to our instant VM recovery technology. But what we're doing now is we're taking the backup repository using iSCSI and mounting it to a Windows box. So obviously, if we mount a Windows drive or partition natively into another Windows box, it's going to appear, and it's going to appear there quite easily. And you're going to be able to do stuff to that particular folder structures of the files and whatnot. But for Linux, it's a bit of a different problem, right? If we're mounting it on a Windows box, we have to be able to read that data. So the answer to actually how you do that is pretty simple. So I'm just going to step through that process and initially obviously give you a little bit of a demo about the data integration API and what it does as well. So we're going to leverage that particular backup job, which has got that web server in there, which is a very small 2 gig web server based on Linux. I think it's in a Ubuntu box. So what we're going to go and do, we're going to leverage PowerShell. Now, the way that we actually leverage the PowerShell here is, let's go into this. So you can see that I've basically put a history of previous commands that I've run to do a bit of a test on this. So what we're doing is we're basically naming the target server. Which is the target server there in this case is where we're going to mount this repository and the job image. And then you can see that we've actually specified the job there. So R2 EC2, we've given the job ID there, and then we're finding the objects in that job. And then we're going to pick that particular backup point within that job to then mount. And you can see that through this restore point function here. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to copy and paste that. Let's just copy that. So we're basically looking to, let's go here, restore point equals the job. We're going to get the restore point. We're going to get the name of that. So we've all previously put that in. And then we're going to sort the restore points in that particular job. And then we're going to basically select the last restore point. So let's do that. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to actually go through and set some variable before. So we're going to actually get the name of that restore point and get the VM. So let's run that. This is actually already in there, but we'll just run it again. And then what we're going to do is we're going to write some information about what we're getting, just to be visual about it. So there we go. We're publishing that particular disk. And then it's actually published a session. So we're going to start that session. So let me go here and use this particular command here. So again, we're using the publish VBR backup content commandlet, which is going to effectively publish that session. And what it's going to do in the background, if we go to V backup replication, we're going to see a job kick off in a couple of seconds. And it's going to have a mounted, what looks like almost like an instant VM recovery job. So you can hear we've got a disk publish job, and in here we've got actually instant recovery. So if we go in here and look at this particular property, we're going to see that we're publishing and mounting this disk. Now, as I go into this particular view here for the Windows machine, obviously we're publishing it to this particular machine, you can see that that volume has popped up. It's now visible. So there you go. So we've got a 2 gig partition there that's now available to this Windows box, again mounted by iSCSI. And just to show you that it is actually iSCSI mounted, let's go and actually type in iSCSI. Let's have a look at the initiator settings, and we can see here that we've got a Veeam iSCSI initiator running and actually doing that. So it's looking at the repository, the Veeam backup replication server. This could be a different Windows server as well. So you can do remote mounting of the iSCSI. So that's actually mounted there. If it was a Windows server that we're actually looking at, we've got under C and Veeam file level recovery. So again, reusing some of the technology that we previously put into the platform. You'll see here, you can actually go in and see the volume. Now, obviously here the volume is going to be empty because this is a Linux server itself. This was a Linux server. If this was Windows, you'd be able to basically go and preview and do stuff to the actual partition, to the folder structure of the files at this particular view. So what I'm going to do to actually see that Linux partition, what I'm going to do is use a program that I've just downloaded. It's from Systernal, so let me just basically try and find it somewhere here. I had it here before. This is where there we go. Disk internals Linux reader. Let's load that up. So you can see here that when this is loaded, we're going to have presented with us the existing partitions that we can see in this Windows server itself, the R drive, the C drive. We can see that we've got this Linux extent here, and you can see that we've got this Veeam virtual disk that sits here. So what I'm going to do is actually just double click on this, and right away, we're actually now viewing the contents of that particular restore point. And again, this is live, okay? So we've mounted this live, and we can now do stuff. Again, I'm saying stuff, but really anything now to this particular folder structure here, the file system. So we can go in and look at the file structure. We can pick files, we can save files. The other cool thing we can do from the previous screen as well, which I quite like, is the ability to mount to a disk letter. Okay, so we're going to use, this is obviously a free edition, but even so, you can actually use this Linux reader to actually do some other cool things in there as well. So let's actually go and exit that, because I think it will give us the next screen regardless. So let's click on Z drive and let's mount that particular volume itself. So in a second, what we should see now, if we go back here, you can see that Z drive. So let's go to file system, and we're able to read that Linux file system natively now through Windows. So again, what you're about to do now is do and overlay some sort of third-party application to maybe look up, some sort of forensics or whatever you might do to actually make use of this particular feature. So this data integration API is pretty powerful. If we go back to here, it's a powerful feature in V10. I wanted to show you guys actually how to live mount a Linux file system as well, because in our documentation it obviously talks about Windows file systems and that natively works. But again, using a free tool like the one that I showed you, you're able to use the data integration API to live mount that particular repository, that volume, and then do things with it once it's actually mounted. So, it's pretty cool. I really think this is, again, a very, very highly, not so much underrated, but it's one of those features that's a little gem in V10. And look forward to presenting it a little bit later on. Thank you.